Welcome to Big Technology Podcast Friday edition, where we break down the news in our traditional, cool-headed, and nuanced format. So much to talk with you about this week. If you thought we were going to spend the entire episode talking about WWDC, I'm sorry to say that's not going to happen today. Instead, we have so much going on, including a vision-setting document from Sam Altman at OpenAI, some really interesting news coming out of Meta as Mark Zuckerberg tries to right the AI ship. Okay, we'll talk a couple minutes about WWDC because the company seems to be digging itself into a deeper hole. And then, of course, the image of the week, Waymos lit on fire in Los Angeles amid the protests. So, joining us as always on Friday is Ranjan Roy. Ranjan, great to see you. We're going to have a lot to talk about this week.
Waymos are ablaze, and listeners cannot see, but Alex is holding a TikTok-style influencer microphone, I think in a corner of a hotel room maybe, or...
At a friend's apartment. So I do want to say, for those listening, watching, I brought all of the proper equipment to record normal podcasts this week from San Francisco, and this is the third I'm doing on the influencer mic, but I forgot one cable. So
one cable.
that is podcast life. I think we're doing pretty good. We have serviceable audio, but the quality, of course, that you expect on that front will be back to full strength next week. All right, let's talk about this post from Sam Altman, The Gentle Singularity. Kind of an interesting way to put it. I'll just read the beginning. We are past the event horizon. The takeoff has started. Humanity is close to building digital superintelligence, and at least so far it's much less weird than it seems like it should be. We have recently built systems that are smarter than people in many ways and are able to significantly amplify the outputs of the people using them. The least likely part of the work is behind us. The scientific insights that got us to systems like GPT-4 and O3 were hard-won, but will take us very far. In some big sense, ChatGPT is already more powerful than any human who has ever lived. Ranjan, I got to ask you, I mean, obviously, you could make a case for many of these claims as the CEO of OpenAI. Why now? And why do you think Altman feels the need to come out with this post? Because this is like a major, I would say, vision-setting document from him.
I think, so normally when I see a blog post from a founder of a company like OpenAI called The Gentle Singularity that's very bombastic and future looking, I think I usually will kind of discount it as more just marketing content. But actually, I don't disagree with a lot of the things he's saying. I think he actually provides a pretty realistic view in terms of 2025. We're already seeing agents that can do cognitive work, writing computer code. 2026, we'll see the arrival of systems that can figure out novel insights. 2027 may see the arrival of robots. Then getting into imagining what could 2035 look like. I've been a long proponent of the idea that innovation has slowed, that a cell phone today looks like it did in 2011, basically, that there's a lot of, for our day-to-day lives, there have not been just kind of dramatic changes since the late 2000s, early 2010s, when we did see a kind of fundamental shift in the way we interact with technology. So this, oddly enough, was kind of exciting for me and kind of actually had me thinking about what could life in 2035 look like.
So in this post, Altman artfully writes a response to a lot of the core complaints that we see about AI. Just to paraphrase, he says, you got it to write a paragraph. Now you want a novel. You got it to write, to help a scientist in research. Now you want to come up with the discoveries of its own. So first of all, okay, well, who's setting that bar exactly? It is hype posts like this. So you're almost arguing with yourself, Sam. But the other side of this, which is really interesting, is yes, we've seen, we are happy to talk about how impressive some of this technology is, but we haven't really seen it take the next step, right? It's amazing in the chatbots right now. And trying to apply it outside is not as easy. And in fact, there is a new paper that just came out there where they looked at a company going from 0 to 30% of its code written by AI, and a key measure of productivity only went up by 2.4%. Now that's billions of dollars in the real economy, but it's not exactly making a normal engineer a 10x engineer. So talk a little bit. I mean, I understand like this is the trajectory that OpenAI wants to go on, and if you believe AI is going to get to the place that a lot of folks are saying, then this is what we expect. However, how do you sort of contrast that with the clear limitations we're seeing with the technology today?
Well, no, that's where I think we're at that inflection point. I think it's going back to the model versus the product and the app layer, but like we have seen the just kind of like foundational advancement over the last few years just accelerate to a dramatic degree. But now we're going to start seeing this applied, and that's everyone is working on it and actually getting this like genuinely applicable at scale. Because as you said, like now a single engineer or across an engineering department, you can automate a lot more of the code writing process. But what does that actually do to overall productivity? It's still minimal. So actually bringing AI into larger scaled systems, both in our personal lives and our professional lives across enterprises, I think we're going to start to see that more. There's more of a focus on that right now. So I think, again, the next 2 to 3 years, we see a much, much bigger jump in the way work changes, our lives change versus the last few years as everyone it still was living in kind of the toy phase of things.
But even if like it's an application issue, I would say that like I've, some developers who will say that this code, won't necessarily code in the way that your company codes. It will bring in legacy code that you've phased out. We'll have junior developers that will code things and not understand how they work and then ship them and break the app. And I think those applications are in the most powerful application of this technology right now, which is coding. And clearly that goes for like having it right thing and work across systems. So talk a little bit about where you see the gap between what this technology is capable of and why we're seeing these issues in implementation. I mean, part of this has to be organizational or even in an individual level, just trying to find out the right use cases. And it sounds like you believe that there's a long way to go in terms of what we can do even with the current systems.
No, I don't think there's a long way to go. I think we're finally working on the right pieces of it. That it like the foundation model race has gotten boring. I mean, I feel like when's the last time any of us got truly excited by some new foundation model update? Now the things that are exciting, what you hear about, like what everyone's are actual outputs and like actual applications of AI. So I think we start to see the change a lot more. I think, again, to me, and I've been asking this for a while, like if we could all just take a breath and move away from like the almost rat race of foundation model advancements and actually be like, okay, now how do we take the technology that exists as of June 13th, 2025, and then actually implement that into our lives. And we're going to get into the Craig Federighi, Joanna Stern from the Wall Street Journal interview in just a little bit. But I actually thought a lot of what came out there was people expected, even companies like Apple, you would just kind of plug in an LLM and it would just solve everything. That's not how it works. Everyone's been learning the hard way that it takes a lot more organizational and systems nuance to make things work. But the reality's finally set in. Apple like understanding that better than anyone else, but now the real work can begin.
So now that Ranjan has made a principled stand against AI hype and building up the technology beyond its capabilities, I am now going to continue reading Sam's post and give you all a dose of AI hype and building the technology back past its current capabilities, just for the exercise of getting Ranjan to respond to some of these claims. So you had already mentioned that 2025 will see agents that are able to do real cognitive work. Altman says 2026 will likely see the arrival of systems that can figure out novel insights. 2027, we may see the arrival of robots that can do tasks in the real world. He says the 2030s are likely going to be wildly different from any time that has come before. We do not know how far beyond human level intelligence we can go, but we are about to find out. So what do you think about these predictions? Are you on board with them, having said the beginning of Sam's post is directionally on point?
It's, I mean, 2035, given the last 2 years of technological advancement, it is kind of crazy to think about what life could look like by then. And it's kind of exciting, I think. Like, I genuinely, and also terrifying in certain ways, but like, it should be different. Like, given what we have to work with right now, and even like with generative AI, large language models, I am a true believer. Like, I don't agree with the Gary Marcuses of the world in terms of saying the technology is not good. I think it has not been used to its potential or in the right way to date outside of chatbots. But I think I'm still sticking with it. 2035, thinking about how different life could be versus 10 years from now, 2035 versus 2015 to 2025. Like, how much has life really changed driven by technology in the last 10 years? When I'm looking around my apartment right now, like, it doesn't look that fundamentally different. The way I go to work and when I sit at work and all that stuff, I guess like virtual conferencing and stuff is a big change. But other than that, it all kind of looks the same. People dress the same. 2035, we're all wearing moon suits and have a robotic best friend.
Well, more than moon suits, here's what he says. The rate of new wonders being achieved will be immense. It's hard to even imagine today what we will have discovered by 2035. He then gives a bunch of examples, but concludes this paragraph by saying, many people will choose to live their lives in much the same way, but at least some people will probably decide to plug in. I think that means connecting their brains with the AI. Ranjan, you talked about, wanting to live differently. Are you plugging in?
Oh man, Sam, you had me until there. I don't know. I remember like I have an Aura ring on my finger. I ended up getting one. I have an Apple Watch. Like, I have the surface of me now is connected in many ways. I have AirPods in right now. I wear Meta Ray-Bans when I'm walking around. So like, it's not injected into me yet, but definitely like I don't know. What do you think your outfits will look like in 2035 in terms of, will they be covered in technology? Will you have a brain computer interface? Will you have a Johnny Ive medallion on a big Mark Zuckerbergian chain around your neck? What's it going to be?
I'm going full Wally. Get me in a go-kart, give me a big soda, and put me on autopilot. Full Wally. No, I mean, I think it'll probably look a lot like it looks like today. I do anticipate that we'll have humanoid robots around, but the question is, how good can the industry get them, and how safe can the industry get them? I think humanoid robot safety is something that's not talked about enough. But if one of those things go rogue, you could have a Terminator problem. And
you don't want a Terminator problem. Never a
don't
good
want
thing.
that. That's one of the things you want to try to avoid. But look, if you do your best and it happens, no one can really blame you, right?
Yeah, I mean, you tried.
You did fine. All right.
It's the fault of Congress.
This is an idea that Sam had in the piece that I thought was interesting. He goes, if we have to make the first million humanoid robots the old-fashioned way, but then they can operate the entire supply chain, digging and refining minerals, driving trucks, running factories to build more robots, which can build more chip fabrication facilities, data centers, etc., then the rate of progress will obviously be quite different. So he's describing like a humanoid robot explosion, similar to like the intelligence explosion that some expect with AI. I thought that was an interesting idea.
See, I think I am running counter to the greatest tech minds of our time, but like, I don't get the whole humanoid robot thing. I think we've debated this in the past as well. Like, to me, applying the human form factor to robotics rather than actually having specialized robots that actually solve specific problems and are built, because again, right now you go to any automated warehouse, it's not humanoid robots moving around. It's robots that have been specifically designed to handle repetitive tasks of picking up boxes and moving them and placing them and pulling out items. I'm still team specialized robotic form factor versus team humanoid form factor and robotic form factor.
I
Which
highly
side
disagree.
are you on?
I am on team
You're a
humanoid.
humanoid guy.
Maybe humanoid with like 6 or 7 arms. What you're
Yeah,
describing
why not
is
7 arms then?
I would go
Why do
7
they-
arms. Yeah,
Okay.
go 7. No, why not make it 12? Do it full. What's it? The goddess with all the different
Durga, yeah.
Durga. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, those people who, I mean, I don't know if it's divine or not, but it was obviously a very good design decision to give those arms to Durga. I think, listen, this idea that we have these functional robots makes a lot of sense because those robots don't have a world model. They don't understand the world as we do because they don't see it as we do. They don't understand physics, really. I mean, they might be able to grasp things and have that hard-coded in them, but it's similar from going from like hard-coded AI to a large language model, which understands, right? But like, can be conversant on a bunch of different topics. When you build AI with a world model that understands physics, objects, how things work together, then you want to go humanoid robot, or maybe souped up robot that takes a humanoid form because all of a sudden you can be functional. Like the idea that you can have humanoid robots, which is one function, do all these things that Sam is discussing, which is again digging, refining materials, driving trucks, which we already have steering wheels and they have hands, right? Running factories and building more robots and building chip fab facilities. That is an exceptional form. I don't think you want to go too specialized for each because ultimately this is a very complex world that requires complex maneuvering around to be really useful.
In a weird way, I guess that's like the most human-centric or human-forward view of it because I want to just kind of rebuild and remap everything to actually be more efficient for the specialized robots. But I think maybe you're right. The Durga model, souped up, 8 to 10 arms. Maybe that's
Give it some wheels on the feet, right?
Yeah, that's what. So, is anyone working on that? Boston Dynamics, I'm sure, is
Probably. I mean, we're talking about eons of evolution. Like something happened in a good way to get us to where we are right now. It really does work. All right, so let's just sort of conclude this by bringing this back down to earth with the final passage from Sam's article, which I think is like really good. He says, for a long time, technical people in the startup industry have made fun of the idea guys, people who had an idea and were looking for a team to build it. It now looks to me like they are about to have their day in the sun. Let's pause here for a second before we finish. But this is, I think, pretty interesting. It's kind of an homage to vibe coding, but there has always been this idea of like, so many people are like, I got an idea for a startup, and they just never build it because they don't have the technical talent or let's say the charisma to get a bunch of people around them to build it. These idea guys, and the technical people can just go out and build it. But with vibe coding or with AI coding, maybe it does become the age of the idea guy. What do you think?
Yeah, Sam ends with me in agreement here. I 100% agree with this. I was having a conversation with like an early stage startup founder recently who had not built a prototype and still just had a pitch deck. And I was like, to me, there's no excuse for that right now. Like anyone can build at least basic things right now. And actually, many people, you do not have to have a full technical team to build a functional product. And that means that anyone with an idea should be able to actually realize that idea in some form. And
at least prototype.
At least prototype, but even get to some level of functionality. And I think that's actually exciting. That's like the best, most exciting part of generative AI for me. So I think idea guys, it's your time.
All right, so final thing, let's talk about superintelligence. This is the new word. Sam says, OpenAI is a lot of things now, but before anything else, we are a superintelligence research company. We have a lot of work in front of us, but most of the path in front of us is now lit, and the dark areas are receding fast. We feel extraordinarily grateful to get to do what we do. Okay, 2 questions for you. One, why is everybody talking about superintelligence now? We're going to get to it in a moment with Meta. Well, I thought AGI was the buzzword. Is that now something that they don't even, is too low of an ambition? I guess that when you raise $40 billion, that is what it is. And second, you don't take any issue with this. It does seem to be, again, you're someone that doesn't like hype. This is hype. I mean, got to call it out for what it is.
Sorry, I mean, again, this has been quite the emotional roller coaster for me going through this because I've been supportive, and then we end again with, to me, like, how is it not a bigger story of the AGI to ASI, artificial general intelligence to superintelligence rebrand? It's crazy. It's weird. It's ridiculous. Like, it's just, it happened. Everyone has just comfortably moved on from AGI, started using superintelligence. I think that's the name of Ilya's new start, or
Yes, safe superintelligence.
yeah, safe superintelligence. That was kind of the first, thinking from a pure branding perspective, that was the first inkling. Clearly the messaging worked. Everyone started saying it. It absolved people from having to achieve AGI, or when everyone is saying AGI is already here, yet life doesn't feel significantly different. So I'm going to give superintelligence from a branding perspective, the fact that they've shifted to this conversation and now we're all just accepting it and moving on is crazy to me, but it's happened across the industry, I feel. So kudos to Ilya from a branding perspective, and to the comms folks, whoever came up with superintelligence first as a term.
You done good, or
You
you've
bought
made things harder for
a
everybody
couple more
else.
years of runway. Yeah.
Well, Ilya obviously has raised billions without releasing a product. By the way, on the subject of Ilya, next week on the show, Dwarkesh Patel is going to come on, and he has some very interesting thoughts about what Ilya is up to and the type of AI that he may or may not be building, and how that might help advance the state of the art. So stay tuned for that. That will come next Wednesday with Dwarkesh Patel, or Wednesday, I think it's the Wednesday, June 18th with Dwarkesh. So stay tuned for that. Really fun conversation. Okay. As this happens, though, we are seeing model improvement. And Ranjan, you said that when was the last time we were excited for a model release? And it's funny because I've sort of been the pour cold water over this Sam Altman statement while you've been sort of enthusiastic about it through our conversation today. But I will say, I definitely was excited for the O3 model. That model to me is like the first model that really works and is useful in various ways to me in my daily life. And now OpenAI is releasing O3 Pro, which is a better version of the model. It's going to be available to those paying $200 a month to OpenAI, which unfortunately no longer includes me. But there's a Substack called Latent Space that talks a little bit about why this model is an improvement and why I think it's going to help lead to better products. Just to throw that out there one more time. First of all, the post about current models says they are like a really high IQ 12-year-old going to college. They might be smart, but they're not a useful employee if they can't integrate. So this talking about O3, the authors say, this integration primarily comes down to tool calls, how well the model collaborates with humans, external data, and other AIs. It's a great thinker, but it's got to grow into being a great doer. O3 Pro makes real jumps here. It's noticeably better at discerning what its environment is, accurately communicating what tools it has access to, when to ask questions about the outside world rather than pretending it has the information access, and choosing the right tool for the job. When you think about improvement in models and what that leads to, I mean, we're going to see, right? This is just the very, very early reflections on what this can do. I think a model that does understand its environment, like I talked about, super important, can ask questions to people, and then understands which tools to use when it has to do a task. To me, I would say that's pretty important, and I'm excited to, at some point, get my hands on this.
No, I will fully agree. The next great battle in AI is tool calling. that's where we're going to see the maximum amount, like actually bringing these models and agentic AI. That's all that matters, is the ability for an action to understand its context and then take the next correct action. And to do that, you have to know what tools you have access to and which tool is correct to interact with next. So I think this is huge. Actually, like this is where, and I'll give you, it's on the model level, so fine. Models matter, fine. But like, I think this is very astute, that tool calling is going to be the key to agentic AI, which is going to be the key, and like integrating into the existing world, systems, companies, processes, organizations, everything.
What is tool calling? Just explain what that is.
It's the ability of the model to actually call out to another tool, either via API or script or whatever like resource it uses to access another tool. Its ability to, so currently you might be doing that manually by actually like coding out API calls. There is a world where like a large language model should be able to generate that on the fly, understand what tool it should call out to, and then actually generate that connection in real time and make that call, transfer whatever data needs to be transferred, take whatever action needs to be transferred. So like right now, if you use deep research, you kind of start to see it in action. What is it doing? It's calling out to a bunch of websites. That's via the internet, the World Wide Web. It's calling those websites. Maybe it's downloading documents, and then it's going to parse them. Like each one of those is an action that often requires a specific tool. But then you imagine that in large systems that exist already, and the ability, so you don't have to manually map out every single block on an agentic workflow. Like that is a huge area of opportunity right now. And I really think that's the next great AI battle, and it's at the model layer. So I'll give you that.
Okay, that's super interesting. We definitely should do more on that. So folks expect more conversation about tool calling on the show. We have so much more to talk about. We got to talk about this Meta thing, very quick reaction to WWDC, and the fact that Waymos are on fire. We'll have a very fast moving second half right after this. And we're back here on Big Technology Podcast, Friday edition, talking about all the week's AI news, a lot of more theoretical stuff. Let's get more practical in business here in the second half. Meta is making a very big investment in ScaleAI. I call it like an acquihire-zition. It's weird. They're not buying the full company, but this is from the... I actually think I said that on air on CNBC.
I hold on.
Yeah.
Can you coin that term, trademark, the acquihire-zition?
Acquihire-zition.
That is what
That's
this
what
is, and that describes this better than anything else, and it's amazing.
The word came out of my mouth on air, and I was like, what did I just say? I'm going to roll with it. I'm going to stick with
Go.
it.
Acquihire-zition.
So this is from the information. Meta to pay nearly $15 billion for ScaleAI stake in startup's 28-year-old CEO. I love how companies are investing in other companies, and you get the CEO and like the top talent because of it. It's something that's happened multiple times, including with Inflection, with Mustafa Suleyman going over to Microsoft. And Meta, which has had some regulatory issues, is taking note. So this is from the story. Meta has agreed to take a 49% stake in the data labeling firm ScaleAI for $14.8 billion. Meta will send the cash to Scale's existing shareholders and place the startup CEO, Alexandr Wang, former Big Technology podcast guest, in a top position inside Meta. Meta would put him in charge of a new superintelligence lab. There is that word. Hit the bell. Along with other top scale technical employees. That will put him in competition with some of his customers and friends, including OpenAI CEO Sam Altman. Another interesting point from the story, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg has been actively recruiting top AI researchers in an effort to boost his company's AI efforts. He was frustrated with the reaction to its latest AI offering, Llama 4, and aims to catch up to competitors such as Google and OpenAI. Ranjan, your reaction, good or bad move from Zuckerberg?
This one is tough for me. I really go back and forth in terms of good or bad. They are taking some action. They've been falling behind, and clearly they want to catch up. So that's good that they're willing to take some bold action. But again, acquihire-zition, $15 billion for a 49% stake just to hire the guy. Like, I was even confused again if it was truly an acquihire-zition, but actually, like, they announced that the chief strategy officer of ScaleAI, Jason Droege, will now be CEO, and Alexandr Wang is full on Meta. Like, he's not a little Scale, little Meta, some kind of weird Elon Muskian dual role. He's all in. Is he worth that much? Is he just some consultation to Mark Zuckerberg over the last few months and giving him good advice? Is he worth that much?
Let me do my best to make the case for this deal because I think it is worth it. And I don't think it's going to be the last one. Because if you read through the lines, it's not just Alexandr Wang. This is from Bloomberg. Zuckerberg has been on the warpath recruiting. Let me see. I just want to make sure I pull up the right story here. So this is from Bloomberg. Zuckerberg has spun up a private WhatsApp group chat with senior leaders to discuss potential candidates. The chat, which they've called Recruiting Party, is active at virtually all hours of the day. And Zuckerberg has also been hosting folks at his homes in Palo Alto, California, and Lake Tahoe, and personally reaching out to potential recruits. Okay, let me set the stage here. So if the things that we talked about in the first half, if Sam Altman's predictions come true or half true, that this is a rapidly advancing technology that's going to determine the future of technology, you really can't afford to be mediocre for a couple of years and hope to catch up. And I think that's been the alarm bell around Apple. But certainly it's an alarm bell with Meta because after they took the lead in open source, they were surpassed by DeepSeek, and then Llama 4 was not up to expectations. So I think Zuckerberg sees this, and what he's doing is looking out at the landscape and saying there's basically three vectors that you can compete on with AI. The first is GPU, just scaling up GPUs. Meta has that, right? They had a ton before this moment. They used them to build, very impressive lot of models off the bat, and they've got the GPUs. The other two things that you need are data and talent. And Meta has a lot of data, but Scale has proprietary data that's basically is being used to help companies scale up their models beyond just using GPUs. And then the talent thing is super important. You'll remember that Sergey Brin came on the show a couple weeks ago and said that he believes that algorithmic scaling, not necessarily compute scaling, will lead to the most improvements. And the way you get algorithmic scaling is building new algorithms. And the way you build new algorithms is with talent. So to me, this is Zuckerberg clearly seeing an issue with his company and making, I would say, the strategic, exact right move to fix it. Unlike another company that we've seen within flagging AI product that it seems like it's still in denial about what is wrong. So that to me is the case for Zuckerberg not only going after Scale and Alexandr Wang, but starting this recruiting party and going hardcore on recruiting top talent. There are reports that he's offered 8- and 9-figure cash amounts to top talent engineers to come over to Meta. That's like in the tens and maybe even up to $100 million to a person, not a company, a person to come over. So that I think he realizes the stakes and he's making it happen, and he's shown an ability to do this in the past. That is, I think, the bull case. What do you think? What do you think about that, Ranjan?
All right. I think again, anything when you look at these relative to market cap or even cash on hand are not like existential for Meta. So in that sense, I think it's not unreasonable. I think it's also fair too, from like a shareholder perspective, that the further behind they fall, there's more risk to Meta stock in terms of people being like questioning strategy versus spending like a very aggressive move like this. It's still, I guess, like ScaleAI, kind of helped OpenAI build their model, so they have a clear understanding of what kind of data, along with other, major companies. So he has been at the center of all of this. So maybe just that kind of like proprietary knowledge is also has a significant amount of value. It's still more, this whole acquihire-zition model is just a sign of the times, I guess, more than anything else that I've seen in a while. But I buy what you're saying a little bit.
And it's clear that they do need new talent because, as you pointed out to me in our text messages off air, the product isn't exactly working even beyond the models.
This was my favorite story of the week. So this is the most meta, and let's just call it a Facebook thing, because this is like old school Facebook. So the new MetaAI app, which many people may have downloaded, and it's a separated app that's essentially kind of like the chat interface, chatbot experience that you would expect from a ChatGPT or Perplexity. But one of the small nuances is they'd also positioned it as somewhat of an AI social network. Now, it was a bit unclear what that meant, but people started noticing, and I actually had not even noticed the Discover experience in MetaAI, and I don't use it. I use it for generating images that are fun with my son. Like he wants to do like half animals, half dolphin, half squid or something like that. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to use Meta's image on this one. If you go to the Discover tab, it posts entireties of chats from people that probably don't realize that it's being posted. And it's like, as a social network, even crazier, it posts people's voices prompting MetaAI. So it has like an audio clip, audio message, voice recording. And there's all types of crazy situations. A lot of people very personal, asking about like a legal brief for a custody battle, asking about like relationships and depression. My favorite one of this one, I found on Reddit, a screenshot. Someone saying, you're supposed to be my wingman, where my big booty future wife at? So all types of requests, but people almost certainly unknowingly posting their AI chats to a public social network feed. Thank you, Meta/Facebook, for bringing some of that old unanticipated sharing activity back to social networking.
Yeah, what's old is new again, and there's some funny parts of this, like you mentioned, the guy who asked for the AI to be his wingman and trying to find his big booty future wife. And towards the end of the screenshot that someone shared, he says, "Big booty and a nice rack," and the AI is like, "You got specific tastes. I like it." It's like, what kind of conversations are these? But they're also, it's quite sad, and it sort of goes into this conversation of people needing AIs for companionship, given that our society has done such a poor job in building community and sustaining and fostering community, that people feel like they need AIs to be their friends. And you just listen to these conversations with people and these AIs, who the AI has become their companion in many cases, and it's just like, it's just such a glaring magnifying glass, or I don't even know if that's a phrase
I'm
that
joking.
makes sense.
I'm like I'm making a light of it, but it's terrifying and it's sad. And like, a lot of the queries that have been posted around it's people who are just really looking for help and answers and companionship. But do you want to hear my conspiracy theory on this?
I always love a good conspiracy theory.
Okay.
We have a podcast after all. What will we be without conspiracies?
So I was thinking about on one hand, to do something this clumsy, I actually can see. Like, it's just one product manager makes this decision. And I saw that there are some people who actually, it looked like they were purposefully posting to kind of show expertise around a subject, or even like if you go through, a lot of people do like prayer affirmations and stuff, but then their handle is like a church or something religious. So then you're like, okay, I can actually see this person knew what they're doing. And this idea that you push your prompt into a feed and then it's getting liked and shared makes some sense. But then I was like, what's Meta's biggest threat? It's the ChatGPTs of the world owning like the true human relationship and data and questions and queries that really get into the soul of a person. suddenly I think this is going to continue to become a much bigger story. And like suddenly this idea that people are going to share everything with a chatbot is a little scarier the more people start thinking, oh wait, you know what happened with Meta. I'm going to stop asking ChatGPT and Claude these really personal questions. And suddenly Meta is actually in a better position relative to OpenAI on kind of that personal connection to chatbot. What do you think?
That's a great conspiracy. That is a great conspiracy. I won't rule it out entirely. All right. Let me ask you one more question about this scale thing before we move on to Meta. This came up in our Discord. There's been plenty of reporting on why Meta wanted to buy ScaleAI, but why did ScaleAI want to sell? Are the main LLM providers getting good enough at obtaining trading data themselves? Did DeepSeek's signal top for services like this? What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I also think synthetic data in training foundation models is going to become more and more of just a standard practice. Like we've exhausted the like race for real world data. Foundation models have also gotten very, very good. And regular listeners will know that I'm definitely of the school that we don't need bigger and bigger and bigger models. So I think in that sense, like the game ScaleAI played, the service they provided was brilliantly timed. They became like a critical part of overall LLM infrastructure. But what they did, their job, again, like actually having people manually tag, like large networks of people manually tagging data to make it more ingestible for a large language model or for a training, it's not going to be as relevant anymore. You can even now have large language models, do the tagging itself. So the service they provided was not going to last. So good on Alexandr Wang and timing in terms of making this move.
Okay, so we talked again about Meta seeing an issue and addressing it. Now let's just go quickly to Apple, because I thought we were done with WWDC coverage, but then there's been a bunch of executive interviews that have come out, mainly with Craig Federighi and Jaws, who's their head of marketing. And it just seems like this company is diluted. They've said that they are not looking to build a chatbot, but also that Siri is, their mission is to make Siri the best assistant. They said that they want that, Apple Intelligence is basically out there already, but that they're not giving a shipping date because they don't want to overpromise. MG Siegler said this in Spyglass. He said, Apple clearly wants to frame this as people perhaps being upset because they simply don't understand the intentions here. He says they don't want a chatbot. They want to do more than that, baking AI into every product. I think that's actually a fine strategy, but only if your AI works really well. And the state of Siri, the actual ship stuff over the past 15 or so years suggests that it doesn't. They have to get their AI house in order and catch up. Or, I'm sorry, to hear Apple tell it, there's nothing, there's nothing wrong, just a minor delay, and internally at Apple, it's better than it's ever been. You're crazy to think otherwise, that's the message that Apple is giving. So talk a little bit about what you saw from the post-WWDC interviews. To me, they were even worse than the underwhelming event itself, and where does Apple go from here?
Okay, yeah. Separate from the event, the post-event, the Joanna Stern from Wall Street Journal interview, with Craig Federighi and who was the other one?
The head of marketing, Jaws.
Okay. It was one of the most fascinating Apple pieces of media I think I've seen in a long time, because she did an incredible job, just kind of like in a very calm way, but just repeating the right questions. Craig Federighi, you could kind of see like getting a bit frustrated, but still having that perfect smile and just kind of like...
No. There was a moment where he was he let the smile down.
He looked like he was going to lose it, right?
Yeah, you see him remember to smile, and then all of a sudden, bam, cheeks go up.
Okay. So you caught that as well. Watch, it's a 7-minute clip. If listeners, maybe you'll catch it too and let us know. Like, there's one moment I'm like, oh shit, he's about to lose it right now. And then total recovery and smile. But overall, I don't understand the way they approached it, the whole kind of narrative they're trying to push is, we'll release it when it's ready. It's not ready yet. It's a very complex problem. Everyone else is just doing chatbots, and we want to do more than a chatbot. No, everyone is not just doing chatbots. There are incredible AI experiences and solutions and products that span far outside of a chatbot. And they kept repeating that. Again, like, querying your own data is doable. You can upload a bunch of documents to an AI service and actually query them. Yes, it's a complex problem to do it across all of your data, across all of your apps on your iPhone at the operating system level. I know it's complicated, but which leads me to the one thing she did not press them on. Why did you do that marketing push? Why did you, like Apple in the past, the beauty of the company was, here is this incredible story around a product, and here's the product, and it just works. And remember those commercials, the girl from Last of Us, looking up someone she didn't want to talk to and finding their information quickly, and I don't know, they were terrible. They launched the largest Apple-style marketing campaign. Why did you do that if you weren't ready? That's the one question I felt was not pushed on.
For sure. But I think the entire conversation was just exposing of Apple for, again, doing that. And the attitude for Apple being like, I don't understand why anybody's upset. We're doing exactly what we said we would, and I mean, to me, there was like a lack of, I think, self-awareness and humility there.
Yeah, I think
concerning.
Like, they could just say, or they could have, I don't know. Do you think it would be better to say, you know what? We have been behind, we've screwed up, and we are going to deliver. That's all we're doing, where it's like hair on fire situation in the company, and we get it, and we're going to deliver? Or do you think it would be better that they took you know what, we are the best for privacy. We only deliver product, which they kind of alluded to. We only deliver products when they're at 100%. So anyone, not just tech forward people, could use them. They kind of alluded to that, but they didn't even really. But what do you think's a better direction?
It's hard for me to say. I think everything is fine, is probably the worst direction, but ultimately any other direction, it doesn't matter until you ship. I mean, basically, they could have just come in and say, listen, like, this is something we wanted to do. We understand it doesn't matter until we ship it. So we are working hard to ship it. That's all.
Do you think they should have canceled WWDC given there was no real announcement?
That would have been worse, I think, because that shows you just like you don't even care to show up.
No, I mean, you say, you know what? We are going to, people are working around the clock. We get it. We are going to deliver the world's greatest AI assistant that anyone can use. So there's no reason to have a whole event to talk about operating system names and changing backgrounds on chats and stuff like that. That could have been like update notes in an iOS app update or system update. Like, I don't know.
Don't forget about the phone app. You got to get everybody together to talk about the phone app and the messages app.
Wait, can you explain to me Liquid Glass? Why is it exciting?
No.
Okay. I want someone to. And I saw something where it's like they're getting back to what they're great at, design and Liquid Glass. And I still didn't get it, but I want to. I want to at least try.
You will try. That's the thing. You'll be forced to at some point.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Before we go, let's just very quickly hit this story. I think, look, we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about it, but it's important for us to just stay on top of this story. It's an important one, which is how generative AI is changing the web. This is a story. News sites are getting crushed by Google's new AI tools. The AI Armageddon is here for online news publishers. Chatbots are replacing Google searches, eliminating the need to click on blue links and tanking referrals to news sites. As a result, traffic that publishers relied on for years is plummeting. Here's some stats. Traffic from organic search to Huffington Post desktop and mobile websites just fell by over half in the past 3 years, nearly by that much at the Washington Post. Business Insider cut 21% of its staff last month, as the CEO, Barbara Pang, said that the cuts were aimed at helping the publication endure extreme traffic drops outside of our control. Organic search traffic to websites declined by 55% between April 2022 and April 2025, according to data from the company SimilarWeb. They do analytics. 55%. That's crazy. And Google is going to be sending even fewer visitors with this new AI mode. Not to mention, Google is now offering employee buyouts in the search organization and other organizations, while not offering them in places like DeepMind that does AI. We've done some reporting on this here with my story about World History Encyclopedia, but it's very clear now that that was the rule and not the exception, and the web is in some even deeper trouble. Remember we said it was kind of on life support?
No.
This is like
Instead
hospice now.
Instead of the web is dead, then we tempered that with the web is in secular decline. Now, web is in hospice is definitely another direction to take it. But yeah, no, I mean, this is what we've been talking about forever, and it's definitely going to dramatically affect anyone who optimized for a pre-LLM world, like who didn't just publish and have their website. Like Business Insider is the greatest case of a company that, for longtime media folks, the invention of the slideshow on a website to get an additional display ad to click for every slide you cycled through was one of the most ridiculous but actually brilliant innovations in monetizing web publishing. Like Business Insider forever, that's how they operated, and that is not working anymore. And maybe there's going to be like ChatGPT first publishers, but trying to game Google to get traffic, to show display ads, to make money is beyond hospice. That is dead. I think
done for, right?
Yeah. Like overall, people having websites and interacting with them in different ways. I think web has some room to breathe, and there's it's not over yet, but monetizing on display ads based on page views, that is long gone, especially if you build like a powerhouse optimization engine circa mid 2010s on that. That's long gone.
Now talk about this Midjourney story.
Yeah, so we saw Disney and Universal Studios sued Midjourney. We've talked about New York Times sued OpenAI. One of my predictions has been like, we're going to start to get some guidance or resolution, I think, by the end of this year in terms of like how copyright will play out. And we need it. Like, I feel it's one of the things holding the overall industry back, not having a clear direction of what's indemnified and what isn't. But my favorite part of this, though, was the New York Times OpenAI, for people who had looked into that, they were able to recreate by prompt essentially the entire text of articles. But that's still not as visually jarring as literally asking show Iron Man flying action photo, and there's a photo of Iron Man. There's ones of the Simpsons, the Minions. I mean, Midjourney clearly trained on copyrighted info and returns that info. That's a problem. And there has to be some kind of resolution to all of this before people will start actually at a professional level using these technologies in a proper way.
It's sort of a perfect lead into our final story of the week, which is why Waymos self-driving cars became a target of protesters in Los Angeles. Time has a couple of theories here. They source the Wall Street Journal that say that part of the reasons the cars were vandalized was to obstruct traffic. They said some social media users suggested self-driving vehicles in particular have become a new target because they are seen by protesters as part of the police surveillance state, because they have cameras and they have 360 views of their 360 degree views of their surroundings, and their tool has been tapped by law enforcement. Other people are just talking about the fact that you shouldn't feel bad for them. This is from one organizer. There are people on here saying it's violent and domestic terrorism to set a Waymo car on fire, a robot car. Are you kidding me? So a robot car, are you going to demand justice for robot dogs next, but not the human beings being repeatedly shot with rubber bullets in the street? what kind of politics is this? Honestly, it seems to me that it's just kind of talking around the issue. I think people are just afraid, or they're uncomfortable broadly with AI, which, like, despite all the progress we talk about on the show, broadly the public not comfortable with artificial intelligence, especially as they see it do things like sort of run over some of the previously protected rights like copyright. And, all these companies are clearly trying to automate work in their own way. And the public is just starting to really feel uneasy about it, or has for a long time. And it's manifesting itself in the physical form of burning these Waymos. What do you think?
I'm going to not attribute that level of importance in terms of, I don't know, you want to burn something. If you burn a Waymo, it'll get a little more traction on social media. It's also a little more visually jarring than like other cars if you were to burn them. So I think it's just, I don't know. I think connecting it to a deep-rooted like distrust of AI, I don't know. I think it's just people wanted to burn something, and you get a little more engagement by burning a Waymo than a Corolla.
First of all, I just want to say I don't condone the burning of Waymos.
I do not
condone it, but
no condoning of the burning of cars.
But why do you think they get more engagement on social media? It's because of this unease. It's because there's this feeling that it's Skynet.
All right. Okay, you're right. You're right. The reason behind it's more of a story, or like an emotionally resonant thing that will put you on one side or another to burn a Waymo than a Corolla. Again, we do not condone the burning of cars here on Big Technology Podcast.
We're good on our disclaimers newsletter. At this point.
But I don't know. But
that's what's happening.
If that's the case, how are we going to have humanoid robots, Johnny Ives pin? I mean, if people are going to burn Waymos because they're afraid of cameras, I don't know about I guess a humanoid robot would actually just fight back and not let you burn it.
Maybe not. I mean, they're not going to be programmed to fight back. Like, all this alignment work is going to be done for them not to fight back. And I think
even if they're getting burnt, and Tesla Optimus is not going to fight back and let itself be burnt.
Maybe Elon's won't, but the others,
okay,
Google's will definitely be like, fine, whatever you need to do. But I think you're really hitting on the point here, which is, I mean, it's so great. Like, we talked about this in the beginning. Let's just close with it. Like, we're going to hear a lot of rhetoric about AI in the physical world, humanoid robots, all of those things along that nature. But there's an assumption that people are just going to allow this to happen, especially as, even if Dario is wrong and it doesn't cause 50% of entry-level jobs to go away, it's going to change people's lives. And this is something that's happening, effectively top-down versus bottom-up in most cases. There's just going to be discomfort there, and people are going to keep attacking these things. I'll just say this last thing. When I was at BuzzFeed, I did a series where I would fight with robots. I tried to steal...
What?
Yes, I tried to steal. I did effectively steal. It was so funny. I stole lunch out of a DoorDash robot. I just ripped it open and took the lunch out of it with DoorDash PR there. I fought a tackling robot at a football field. This was a series. And I think underneath it all was just this thing that, like, I was like, I am not going to be the first. I have an urge inside me to beat the crap out of these things, and so will a good chunk of society. And I think we're starting to see the beginnings of that.
Well, it's also good that you are preparing yourself for all modes of robot combat that could be required by 2035, according to the gentle Singularity. So maybe
right. Gotta practice.
Maybe I need to start scrapping with robots just to prepare myself a little bit. I'm not going to burn them. No burning cars.
No burning.
Fight a robot.
Sparring.
A little sparring, yeah.
And you'd be surprised because they can fight back in some situations. The lunch delivery robot, I beat that one easily. Just ripped the top off, ran. By the way, that video, they put it on Jimmy Kimmel for 2 weeks in a row, where like Jimmy
really?
he took our video of the robot crossing the street, and then put a bus,
BuzzFeed.
Put special effects and had like a bus run into it and the thing blew up.
God bless mid-2010s media.
It was a good time, but the football robot definitely got the best of me. So Very humbling.
Watch out for that one, listeners.
Exactly. All right. So we'll end it there. We look forward to a future where humanoid robots are among us, a gentle singularity, unless if you ask the people, and then you might get a different answer. Ranjan, so great to see you again. Thanks for coming on the show.
See you next week.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. Again, I'll be back on Wednesday with Dwarkesh Patel, and we will see you then on Big Technology Podcast.